Do you know, actually, for those of you who are Bible buffs, you may recognize this. They're in the scriptures, they talk about stiff-necked people. I remember this because my dad used to love this passage about stiff-necked people. And what it referred to is people who could not change their position. They could not see anyone else's perspective. They were stuck in their ways. And what Bill and I know is that this could not be more true. When a person cannot move their neck, they often cannot move their eyes. We see this often with concussions. When a person's had a concussion, they'll move their whole body, but not actually their neck. Hi, I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna. We're the hosts of the New Life Perspectives radio show.
We're also the creators of the Cogno Movement System, where we help you rewire your nervous system so you can rewire your reality.
Join us each week for great conversations, amazing guests, and cutting-edge information on health, consciousness, and the keys to transformation.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Liz Larson and I'm here with my friend
Bill McKenna.
Hey Bill. And we have been talking recently about everything eye position. And if you've been watching the shows or listening to the shows over the last few weeks, you will have realized that there's so many things integral to how our lives work that have everything to do with our eyes and eye position, how much you move your eyes, how much you don't move your eyes, what you're looking at during the day. It has to do with aging. It has to do with our gait and how we move, how we walk, athletic performance, everything. So obviously, it does not leave out relationships. So on today's show, we are talking about how your eye position could be ruining your relationship, causing all kinds of fights, or how it could actually help you repair and grow amazing relationships. This is a really, really simple thing to know, but it is one of the most profound things that you could know about relationship. There should be a manual about this. Oh, there is. All right, Bill, so let's talk about this. Let's start with a story you were sharing with me off camera. And it's somebody you know maybe quite well.
Okay.
Who's affected by eye position. So set it up and tell us the story.
Okay. So for those who don't know, I'm a helicopter pilot. I've got over 1,000 hours in helicopters. And I have several hundred hours in fixed wing aircraft as a pilot. I have captained boats. I have flown ultralights. I have been driving since I was 18. I've driven everything from ATVs to motorcycles, cars of all kinds, everything from, go-karts to Ferraris. And I have actually a fairly decent record of being able to drive without getting in accidents. And so, I'm fairly competent around flying things or driving things, motion, and being in control of some sort of vessel or, in all kinds of environments.
Bill, is this a long way around to tell us you think you're a good driver?
I'm like a guy. I'm a guy's guy. I drove a big rig, one of those flat ones, the burn. I love driving stuff. And I think I fancy myself as not bad. But anyway, I think everybody's going to laugh about this story because years ago, I noticed that every time I get in the car and my wife sits in the seat, all of a sudden I can't go 10 feet. I'm an idiot. I go, what are you doing driving that way? Why are you hitting the bumps? What's the thing? What did you use your front blinker? Oh my God, person's too close to you. What, just a 1,000,000 different scenarios where I'm like, God, I used to be okay. Am I getting dementia? Am I, Alzheimer's? I'm not sure. So I'm like, this is really weird. I was competent enough to get around. No, I'm not. And I was like, oh my God. Well, anyway, fast forward, cogno movement is invented, and with it, some amazing discoveries. And one of those discoveries was when Liz Larson had figured out that we have an anger position. And the anger position, for many, many people, it's not all the same. First of all, it's not all the same, but down and to the left. So if you're in the passenger seat, where is the driver? Oh, he's over to your left in the United States. So anyway, this is when we say your anger position, what we mean is that when you put your eyes into this position, you interpret the events of life through agitation. It's agitating. Somebody's definitely doing something wrong. So anyway, knowing this, the most simple thing in the world, I simply said, you know what? I don't think I can drive today. I just can't drive. I'm just not feeling so much with the driving today. And so can I please take the passenger seat? Okay, honey. Anyway, what happened was so hysterical because I sat in the passenger seat for an entire day, running errands. You're going to the store, you're going to the daughter's soccer match. There's so many different stimulations. Dinner and this and that and planning and other people coming into play. Oh, what's this person, want or whatever. Anyway, peace in the Middle East. Just no problem. Like it was, when I say peace in the Middle East, I mean, that's as ridiculous as it is. You're like, there'll never be peace in the Middle East. Well, there was, this situation was actually really phenomenal, because it was like, there wasn't one problem, not one problem. Everybody was really happy and like, yeah, oh, this, that, new concepts, new thoughts, about this, that, nice, pleasant conversations, and I was like, wow, well, isn't this interesting?
It is very, very interesting. And this is not a unique story to you. I mean, fights in the car about driving, it is one of the biggest places that people fight is in the car. And if you knew that it was as simple as this, that you just happen to be sitting in the position that lights that person up, how easy is it to change, right? So why is there an eye position that lights up anger? It's about our neural pathways. And as we move our eyes, we connect with different parts of the brain. Now, what a lot of people don't consider is, as an eye position, is your non-focused vision. So when you're driving, a lot of times, or you're the passenger, you're looking forward, and the person is out of the corner of your eye. They've occupied the space that your brain recognizes. And that space for many people is that anger position. It's their anger position. It might even have something to do with road rage as well. This constantly, looking for people in our, in the side view like that might be lighting up that anger position. That would be interesting to study. But it's not just the car. I had a client, I know I've told this story before, but It was a young mom and she was homeschooling. And her reason for coming for the session is she wanted to murder her son during homeschooling almost every day. No, she had a set of twins, a girl and a boy, same age. And what we discovered is the position of that child every day was down into her left, and the daughter was down into her right. So the daughter was fine, everything was great, but the son drove her insane. So all we had to do was move him directly across from her, let him sit on the other side of the table in your line of sight, and it stopped the fight. She stopped being mad at him during school. Now, imagine the poor kid. He's not really doing anything. He's just existing in the wrong place. So for everybody listening, this concept can be called psychogeography. That is one piece of this, that where we position ourselves in a room or in a conversation or relationship to other things changes our perspective. A big reason that it does is the eye position. What part of the brain is being activated that correlates to a neural pattern that makes you feel a certain way? Many, many, many months ago, maybe even a year ago now, we shared an episode about the love direction. And it's a position where your eyes go and you instantly feel that elation, something like love. And the people that you love and the places that you love and things that feel like reverence show up in that position. And you could access it any time of any day that you wanted to. There's eye positions that open up your ideas and inspiration. It's more like straight up. When you look up, you can access these ideas. So everywhere that the eyes are positioned access certain neural patterns. And if we have people habitually sitting in a neural pattern that is one of our, quote unquote, more negative feeling patterns, we are going to fight with that person as often as possible. We're going to resent them. We're going to be irritated by them. They're going to rub us the wrong way. And for the most part, we're not going to know why. So what's the solution? What Bill did, have them sit on the other side of you. Never put them in that place. In the car, it might make a difference if they raised the seat up or dropped the seat down, because an inch higher, they might be right out of that anger position. If they move the seat forward or backward slightly, you might move yourself out of that position. So those are things to try as well. But think about it, Bill. I mean, that is a massive impact for you and your family to have a super peaceful, fun, inspiring day that you want to do again versus holy hell for the day, because the person in the other seat is so aggravated they can't stand you for the day. It's not about your behavior, though.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's not their fault. When we get on the other side of somebody's anger, or agitation, we never think that it's not their fault. It's really not their fault. It's just a neurological pattern that we didn't know about, and it's stimulated through either the direct eye position or even the peripheral vision in that position.
Yep, that's it.
Getting ourselves into another position, really, just like that mother, it solves everything. The mother's not a bad mother. She just had a neurological, a wire in that place. And by the way, there's a Mother Teresa and an Adolf Hitler in every human.
It's true.
And so, knowing where that circuit is for you, you just fire a different circuit and have compassion, because I got one too. Well,
and that poor mom, she was so relieved, when we in session, I put her eyes in the position that lit up anger, and that what spurred the question, where does your son sit when you're in school? When she realized what the problem was and that there was such a simple solution, it created massive relief for her, just massive relief. So let's take this into other areas of life. Let's talk about work. Is there somebody in your experience that drives you batty? And notice, where are they located? Where are they located in the room? Notice when they start annoying you. Notice what it is they're saying, but also where are they in relationship to you when they start irritating the heck out of you. And all you have to do is move location. You move intentionally and see if your feeling about them changes. It's so interesting. So often it does. So let's talk about the psychogeography part about this real quick. So it's more than just eye position is part of it, but there's also triggers that we have when people are standing in a particular position. So in NLP training, we were talking about this and proving it out. It was hard for some people to understand. So what the trainer did was really simple. They just walked up right behind someone and stood right behind them, didn't say a word, appropriate distance where she wasn't touching them, but close enough that their nervous system recognized there is someone at my back. And the hair goes up on your neck. Like everyone's like, get away from me. Like, I like you, but don't stand there, You move just slightly left or slightly right, and the feeling goes away. If you stand shoulder to shoulder with someone, you often immediately feel a friendship vibe. If you're lightly touching their shoulder, this is a clue. This is what friends do. The nervous system says, I'm safe, right? If you're sitting next to someone side by side, if you sit down with them purposely side by side, pretty close, and angle your knees inward, this is an intimate friendship move. We're collaborating here. We're cohorts on something, right? If you sit across from someone, the distance you sit across from them can make the difference between whether your nervous system feels safe or threatened. Seinfeld, do you remember the close talker in Seinfeld? That close talker, you're too much in someone's bubble and their body wants to resist. It wants to move back. It's very, very upsetting for a lot of people. But the close talker, they think they're in rapport with you. They think they're doing great. So positioning yourself in conversation can mean the difference between cohesion, getting along, collaboration, and all out war. All right, let's take our first break. We'll hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network, and we'll be right back. And we're back. We are talking again about eye position and relationships, and not just eye position, but physical position in a room, and how it changes the meaning of what you say, the meaning of what you think. Even the meaning of a relationship itself. It is fascinating, don't you think, Bill?
Well, there's good reason for this. We know that there is something called a place cell and in your brain, and it is the actual place of everything that is in your environment. There's something else called a grid cell. You literally have a grid right now, all of us do, this grid of everything around you. And we know from our experience with, cognitive movement and eye position, you will have a very significant difference of what you think and how you feel based upon the distance and location of where something is in your actual visual spectrum. So it is information. I think that this is probably going to be a super popular episode because everybody's going to want to share this. The epiphany that you can physically start changing a person or location in your environment, and all of a sudden they're going to feel differently about you, or you'll feel differently about them. There's times when literally when someone, and this is going to be really funny for everybody on the audience, is if you're normally sit on the couch with somebody and you're on the one side, not in the other, or at a certain chair in the room, literally, if you switch positions, they will often ask you, this is super uncomfortable for me. I can't move my neck. They can't move their neck because they can't change their opinion. But just keep after it, nice and gentle, move a little bit more. They will actually ask you, could you move over to a different place? They literally can't even move. It literally is uncomfortable for them. Why? Because everywhere we look is a different part of our brain.
Yeah. Do you know, actually, for those of you who are Bible buffs, you may recognize this. They're in the scriptures, they talk about stiff-necked people. I remember this because my dad used to love this passage about stiff-necked people. And what it referred to is people who could not change their position. They could not see anyone else's perspective. They were stuck in their ways. And what Bill and I know is that this could not be more true. When a person cannot move their neck, they often cannot move their eyes. We see this often with concussions. When a person's had a concussion, they'll move their whole body, but not actually their neck. And they will be the people who are most stuck in their ways. No matter what you do, you cannot get them to change their perspective. I just think that is so fascinating, that piece of it. But there is a way with cogno movement to completely release that pattern in the brain and in the eyes, and then in the neck what happens is that's a side effect. It changes that ability to move the neck. By releasing the eye muscles, you can release whole muscle cascades. There's even possibility of releasing, shoulders with that, because the muscles are so bound up that once you release them and release the eyes, everything else starts moving really well too. I wanted to share one more thing about position that people might find interesting. There was this story about a woman at Nike, and she was a high-powered manager over about 100 people. And she just really was not in good rapport. She wasn't well liked. She had a lot of problems. People complained about her all the time. She could not figure out why. So the suggestion was made that possibly it had to do with her rapport, her interactions. So they started asking questions about how did she deliver information? How did she interact? And she said, I just walk in the room, I stand on a chair, and I talk over all the cubicles and tell everybody what they need to tell, and I leave. So this has to do with this idea of a person in authority lording something over you, standing over you. So imagine if somebody's delivering bad news to you and you're sitting and they're standing, what that feels like. I bet you everybody who's had that experience just felt it. I know I did. It's like you're a little kid being talked down to. So think about that. Don't talk down to me. Have you ever heard that? People say it. And what it really means is you are literally above me, talking down as though I'm less than. So this is what her people were experiencing. So the trainer told her, let's change this. Come down into the bull pit, where everybody is in their cubicles. And I want you to bend down next to them, like shoulder to shoulder, and show them what you need to show them. Tell them. Remember, we already talked about this. It's kind of a conspiratorial, like we're in on it together move, right? and see what happens. Well, she resisted it until she almost lost her job. There were so many complaints. So finally she did it. Came back the next week and reported that it was the best week she ever had. And she got rave reviews from her employees simply by changing the position in which she delivered information. Wasn't it different information? There wasn't even a suggestion of changing her tone or her cadence or anything, which all can make a big difference as well. Just change the position in which she delivered the information, and rave reviews. Just rave reviews. Interesting, right?
Unbelievable. You know, the way we can digest communications has everything to do with eye positions. And that's why there is such a danger, extreme danger. Everybody listen to me. Extreme danger in communicating with someone when their eyes are straight down.
Yeah.
Why would that be? Well, this straight down position when you're communicating with somebody, everybody knows if you're looking at somebody and their eyes are straight down, what do you think they might be feeling inside? Maybe sad, maybe really looking introspectively. Well, there's a reason. We all know that to be true. It's not like, oh my God, this is a major discovery. Babies know this. I went one time, and when my daughter was really little, I made a sad face. And then I looked up and her little eyes started welling up. And I was like, oh no, the poor baby, I was only joking with her just to, get her to come over, but everybody knows this before they can even talk. Well, as it turns out, we are all doing this constantly. The statistics in the United States for your average person are somewhere around 8 hours a day of screen time on smart devices, smartphones, smart tablets, smart this, that. And cumulative, right? You look at, and then you look and you don't, you look and you don't. And where are you looking when you look? It's straight down, straight down. Well, this is even more extreme for teenagers. They're over 10 hours a day of screen time on smart devices. So this is a very important thing, because just like we've been talking through this episode, how do you think you might be interpreted when your eyes are down? Now, certainly, if you have a relationship with somebody, then, they know you, you know them, you assume the best in each other. You assume that there's nothing that is negative, but you may have other relationships that are, your plumber, your electrician, your, whoever. But notice that, people, they say, you have to be super positive on a text and use little emojis or smiley face, because you want them to know, I didn't mean anything bad by this. I'm just trying to tell you, pick up the donuts, please, that have chocolate. It's like, but when you don't have the smiley face and everything, you're like, pick up the donuts. It's like with chocolate. It's like, hey, listen, pop, 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 pop. Don't tell me what to do. Think I know, who's paying for them donuts? It's just whatever, But it is a very serious topic. Why? Because since 2007, when the big mobile device, which would be the iPhone, but there's lots of different ones. Google's got one, and everybody's got these smart devices. The smartphone then in 2007 launched, and through today, it's gone from maybe 15 minutes of screen time up to 8 to 10 hours a day. this trajectory is a 1-to-1 ratio of people that have been diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Literally, when you look at the graph, it is a straight line that follows just the hill that we find with looking downward for many hours a day. This is very simple. If we were to say, hey, how do you think your body is going to look if you go to the gym and spend several hours a day, every day? I mean, put me on the cover of GQ, just like, boom, you are in the best shape of your life. Our nervous system, our brain is no different. It's no different.
It is so true. We don't think about working out our nervous system. We don't think about, powering up our brain, creating the muscles in our brain. Most of us don't. And most people don't realize that their eye position has everything to do with that. The other thing about the everybody on iPhone and tablets, and even this working from home since 2020, there is so many social cues that we learn from being together, right? This worked, that didn't. We are also communicating via our nervous system with anybody that we're in a 6 to 8 foot radius from, and for some people, much bigger. But we pick up all of these cues, like you were saying about your daughter, facial expression and all of that. But when a child, through a teenager and even into adults, where their eyes are in one position for that many hours a day, the ability to actually interact socially really, really diminishes over time. And some people never learn it. And it makes me wonder too, if sometimes some of the high functioning people who say they're autistic or have been diagnosed with autism actually really are functioning from never learning appropriate social cues by not moving their eyes enough to get those social cues integrated into the brain and into the nervous system. We find that a lot of people, the millennials onward, have a lot of anxiety. And I think this is a big part of it. The eyes in one position for so many hours, not learning when they're safe and when they're not safe through social cue. So the body just goes into full anxiety. It's like being in the dark all the time. We have come up against our next break. Let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. And when we come back, let's talk about King Arthur. We'll be right back. All right, you guys, we're back. We're talking about eye position again and relationships and how knowing about eye position and where a person could be in reference to your visual reference, your nervous system's reference to anger or love or happy or sad can make all the difference in how you get along with those people. We're also talking about position, like psychogeography. Where are you in a room? That makes a difference in conversation and understanding and cooperation. So let's talk about King Arthur. So in the stories of King Arthur, what did he do? He set everybody up in a round table. Why? Why would he do this? Well, so that everybody had an equal say. But why would a round table be different than a square table or having people from front to back? It's because with a round table, there's no head of the table. And no one is in a higher level of status based on position in the room. So the idea would be that it would foster more cooperation, more trust in a group. I have seen studies about classrooms that do this, where they put the kids in a circle instead of desks from front to back, because kids perceive, everyone knows this, who sits at the front of the class? Tell me, Bill, who sits at the front of the class?
The smart kids.
Who sits at the back of the class?
The stupid kids.
Who sits in the middle? The kids who don't want to be noticed. Right? So you always have this. The kid who has great confidence in their intellect and in themselves sits in the front. The kids that not so sure sits in the back. And it exacerbates this problem, right? So psychogeography, putting them in a circle in a room, how do you identify who's the smart kid and who's the dumb kid? You don't. But if you were to walk in a classroom today and see the kids in the front and the kids in the back, you would make that assumption. So do the teachers. So do the other kids. Now, it might be that there's just no other place to sit in the room but the back. That's the only chair that's open. But over time, that person stuck in that place falls into, I don't have to pay that much of attention. The teacher can't see me from there. They're probably not going to call it on me. I'm at the back. Their eye position is very different from the kid in the front. The kid in the front keeps the gaze of the teacher. The kid in the back doesn't have to do that. They're not going to catch the gaze of the teacher because they're too far away. It's this whole mess of things that happen that could be remedied by this circular putting people in a circle. We, at our big event every year, Cogno Conscious is our big 5-day event every year. It's amazing. People change their lives. But at this event, we ask people to change seats. If you sit one place in the morning, sit somewhere else in the afternoon. If you sit on the left side on Monday, sit on the right side on Tuesday. Make sure you sit in the middle, move around. We really encourage people to move around. But you're always going to have one or two people who won't do it. And they stay in the same place the whole room, the whole time. No matter how much you encourage them, and they'll make reasons. Oh, I can hear better here. I can, see better here. But they're always the people that get the least change.
They're stuck.
Isn't it true?
It's true. And this event is one where there's a lot of change that happens for people in a very good way. But it's absolutely true. They literally are stuck, and it's clearly evident to us and probably everybody else in the room too. But it's such a simple thing to do to change your life. And this episode, around relationships it's so important, because this is where our happiness, this is where our sadness, our growth all comes through relationship. We grow by being in relationship. And, one of the basic premises is that you can grow through chaos or you can grow through harmony. It doesn't have to be hard. Just by simply moving your body around. Now, you might even find relationships doesn't have to be romantic or with mom and dad. You might have a relationship for a short period of time, renting a car, the rental counter, or, something else at your doctor's office. You name it. No one is immune. No one. And knowing this now, where you can simply start to have fun. You got somebody who's giving you a little bit of attitude, or it's like, no, we haven't got any, we don't got any sports cars. You're gonna have to rent the all we have is the 4-door economy model, and that's all we have, or a minivan. I can get you a minivan. You're like, I don't want a minivan, and I certainly don't want that one. And you just like, oh, okay, hold on a second. Let's move to the other side of the counter. Just moving around, and just take your time. Now, what it does is it takes a few seconds for the brain to register. It's not, you just, I'm there and I'm back. Just park yourself in a new place. Just notice what happened.
Yeah, it's so true. There's this thing I like to share when we're in training with our advanced practitioners about eye position, about psychogeography, and about how to do it so subtly that nobody knows it's happening. So they'll say, well, Liz, what if I can't get somebody to do a cognitive movement session? I can't get them to move their eyes, and I'm, we're having this problem. So I start, walking maybe a little to the left side of the room, and maybe I fiddle around with a plant for a minute, and I'm talking, and then pretty soon I move back to the left side of the room, and maybe I mess with the light a little bit, and then come back and stand to the center for a second, then maybe move over and move a chair, so nonchalantly moving to the left, moving to the right, changing my position, that our practitioners who know this work don't realize what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And they all laugh. They all think it's so funny when they get it. But what I'm sharing is something I've done with like my husband or my kids, where I'm really wanting them to change their position. They're locked in their way. Maybe they're sitting, eating dinner or whatever, and maybe I'm cooking. And so I will have this conversation, and I'll just move to the left of the room, and then gently move to the right of the room, and maybe move to the back. So I'm getting them to follow my movements, and getting them to think through whatever we're talking about with the left brain, with the right brain, in a higher position, in a lower position. And pretty soon they do change their mind. Now, a person could use this only on themselves. If you learn cognitive movement, our Cognitive Movement Essentials program would teach you this. It takes you through your own neural pattern, from your emotional body through neutrality into ideas and inspiration. And if you do this for yourself, say that again.
Eye positions.
Eye positions.
Yeah. These eye positions that are your low position, medium, and high, which are different parts of your brain.
Yeah, and left brain and right brain. What it does essentially, it expands the surface of your brain. The part of your brain which attaches to your neural patterns that you have access to is equal to the eye movement that you can create with your eyes. That how much can your eyes stretch? How much can they move? Literally opens parts of your brain. If you do this, you become the most flexible person in the room. And there is this principle in NLP. The person with the most flexibility, range of motion, ability to shift has the most influence. So when you become the person who has the most flexible brain, the ability to see what's going on and move position, the ability to see what's going on and change your own eye position, you have become the person with the most influence. People know these people that are the most dynamic and the most influential. Many of them just happen to have the skill naturally. They know how to build rapport with eye position, with psychogeography, movement in the room inherently, but it's something that everyone can learn. And for this reason, we find in relationships that when we change ourselves, our own perspective on something so radically, like you do using the Cognitive Movement Essentials program, that the people in your life start changing radically as well. It's very, very fascinating and wonderful to watch, don't you think, Bill?
It's such a joy to watch the evolution, because prior to this, if you had never experienced before the relationship between your brain and your eyes and your emotions, for you, you basically think you're seeing the world as it really is, but we're actually seeing the world through our eyes as we are. So this is so easily changeable. Just like we started this episode, I couldn't drive a tricycle, without not, doing it, you're not driving that tricycle right. There's something wrong with you, and to actually, I'm fine. I'm just fine,
Yeah. Well, and even in that story, you were the person with the most flexibility. You knew to change position, right? Some of us will stay in the same position, do the same thing, act the same way. It's called insanity. That is the definition. Doing the same thing again and again and hoping to get a different result. And in relationship, this is often what we do. We approach things exactly the same way. We go about it with our perspective and try to force that on someone else. And they're going to come at it from their perspective and insist that their perspective is correct, right? When you're able to bob and weave, like they say in boxing, when you're able to move out of the way of that perspective and your own, you have the ability to change the nature of the conversation. So in NLP, again, the meaning of your communication is how it's received, not how you project it. So if someone keeps perceiving you in a way that you're not projecting, that's wrong, you think like, wait, that's not what I said. Well, yeah, you did. You might try on one of these skills, move to a different position, sit next to them, switch sides, try standing in front of them and actually looking them in the eye. Notice if when you have these arguments, are you standing over them? Do you happen to be standing behind them? Where are you in space? And could you simply change that to get a different outcome? We move out of insanity when we're willing to change to get a different outcome, which I think is quite interesting. All right, Bill McKenna, we have run out of time for today. I personally think this has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you for being a part of it.
There's a great relationship class that's coming up in just a few weeks. Go to cognomovement.com events, and you'll see the latest relationship series.
Yeah, that's cognomovement.com/upcoming-events. That's where you want to go. But if you come to our homepage and look for the events, you will find it. It is a series, and it's a 5-part series, and we're going to cover every kind of a relationship you can imagine. And it absolutely will revolutionize not just your relationships, but the way you think about relationships from this moment forward. And it's not just tips or a lot of blah, blah, blah. It's literally changing your nervous system around the ideas of these relationships. So no longer will those relationships be a hard spot for you when you think about it or feel about it. It will change it to something that's far more open, far more mobile, far more enjoyable in your life. All right, you guys, until next week, be safe and be well. We'll see you next week.